Are you interested in building a career in the development and humanitarian sector? Then, Strategia Netherlands is the best option for you. We offer training solutions to the United Nations, governments, NGOs and other development organizations worldwide. Make your online application now for Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, and many more. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.nl for more information. Did you know that 67% of Africans don't have access to proper housing, 56% have no access to water, and 79% have no access to food? These are the grim statistics of challenges facing Africa today, even as the continent works to develop. This development demands for well-trained personnel. At Capacity Africa Training Institute, we have been leading the charge in changing Africa's fortunes. We are the leading development training company in Africa, offering institutional training solutions and online and distance learning in business, development and humanitarian courses. Over the last 10 years, we have trained over 10,000 staff from NGOs, governments and the United Nations in Africa. Our catalog consists of over 200 career-focused online courses to choose from, and registration for diploma and postgraduate courses is now open for the following courses: Postgraduate Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Postgraduate Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, Diploma in Community Development, Postgraduate Diploma in Strategic Planning and Management, Postgraduate Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Project Management, Diploma in Nutrition and Dietetics, Diploma in Gender and Development, Diploma in Leadership and Management, Diploma in Finance Management for NGOs, and many more. We have also partnered with the European International University to offer an executive MBA. Once you register, you will have access to our team of experienced trainers and specialist consultants who will guide you on your course whenever you need them. The cost for diploma courses is $800 US, while postgraduate courses cost $1,200 US. The cost of a one-year MBA course is 1,500 euros. Visit www.capacityafrica.com for more information.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another session on monitoring and evaluation. My name is John Karegwa. I'm the training director at Strategia Netherlands. And today, again, we are hosting TolaData from Germany with a session on digital solutions for monitoring and evaluation. As you know, M&E is very, very important in development work, and innovations are coming up to make that work easy. A career in M&E is in huge demand, so you have to have the right skills to fit in the sector. So what I'll do is we'll introduce Joe Bennett and Mr. Hoffner, who are going to do the presentations. But before that, let's get to know, I can see so far we have over 300 people in the program. Just indicate in the chat room where you're sending it from, so we know that the world is represented. I can see Mozambique. Please take a few minutes and indicate in the chat where you're coming from. I welcome you on board. South Sudan, thank you very much, South Sudan. Cameroon, thank you very much. Cameroon, Lome, thank you very much. Botswana, thank you. Uganda, thank you very much. Welcome on board. Swaziland, Lebanon, Zimbabwe, India, thank you. Kenya, Nairobi, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Cambodia. Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jordan, Nairobi, Kenya, Somalia, Nigeria, lots of African representation, Zimbabwe, Nepal, thank you. Lome, thank you. Afghanistan, Bangladesh, thank you very much. I welcome you all. And without further ado, I would like to invite Joe Bennett to take over, introduce herself and introduce Mr. Hoffner. And then they'll take us through the session. Thereafter, we'll have questions and answers to ensure that everyone is well represented. Thank you very much. And Joe, you can take charge. Thank you.
I'll just unmute myself. Thank you so much, John. And hello, everyone all over the world. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to Strategia Netherlands and Capacity Africa for inviting us back. We're really excited to speak with you all today about digital solutions for monitoring and evaluation. So my name is Joe Bennett. I am the CEO of TolaData. We're a social tech company. So we provide a software solution, a web-based monitoring and evaluation solution, specifically for NGOs and the nonprofit sector. So we only work with people who are in the nonprofit sector or doing work within the development sector. I myself have been with the company for about 5 years, but before that I worked for Save the Children for many, many years and also in some other NGO roles. And I'm here today with my colleague, Malte Hopfner. So he is our COO. He's our head of product amongst a range of other roles. He's had a lot of experience in digital tools and the NGO sector as well. So he brings really some great technical expertise to the call, and we're really excited to present to you today. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm sure you can all see my screen. If it's not visible, someone can jump in and let me know. So that's myself and Malte. There you get much clearer pictures of the two of us who'll be speaking with you today. And what we plan to cover today, here's just a little agenda for us. So first of all, we just thought we'd get back to basics. Like, let's just quickly go over again why monitoring and evaluation is so important. I'm sure we've got some M&E experts on the webinar session today, and maybe we've got some other people in different roles through the projects and through organizations. So just to kind of all come together and think about why we really want to focus on this area. And then talk a bit about how digital tools can help. Before we dive into looking at digital data collection, and then we're going to look at how you manage your data, how you bring it all together, how you can make the most of your data doing calculations and analysis, and then how you can tell the world what you've achieved. So the kinds of reports and dashboards you can use. And we're going to be using TolaData to give you a demonstration of how all of that can come together. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about data storage and also some of the key legal issues that are related to managing data. As we all know, that's a really important topic these days. And we'll definitely leave time for questions and discussion at the end, because we're really looking forward to hearing from you as well. So let's get started with why monitoring and evaluation is important. And I'm sure for some of you, this is really obvious, but also sometimes we know we get challenged on M&E, like why do we need to build this into our projects? So the first thing is that it really brings better transparency and accountability. Being able to have that M&E through the entire cycle of your project means that you always know what's going on. If anyone comes back and asks a question, you can prove what happened, what you did, why things happened. So it's really important to just be able to provide that transparency and accountability that's so crucial in the sector. It also can improve decision-making. It's really hard as a manager or a project manager to take decisions if you don't have data underlying it to inform your decisions. So that data and evidence can really give you the facts that you need to then decide what's the next step you need to make in your project. Do you need to make any changes? What's working, what isn't working, and so forth. It also can ensure that resources are used efficiently because it can identify the needs where you should be doing more work. So you can be doing some evaluations in advance to decide how you're going to do the project. As the project's going on, you can see how the needs are evolving and then decide where to direct your resources and effort to make sure that you're really getting the most out of what you're doing. And lastly, related to that improved decision making, it can help you identify problems early on. And this we all know is really key. It doesn't help if you get to the end of your project and then realize maybe for some reason a certain aspect of it didn't work out. Whereas doing monitoring and evaluation through the life of your project can help you make sure that you spot any potential issues, any roadblocks that might have come up, and then you can take action in good time, make the necessary changes, and then ensure that your project is still successful. We have a blog actually that we've written that is about why monitoring and evaluation is good for NGOs. And there's a link down there that you can go to read the whole blog. But this little diagram gives a great summary of 5 of the ways that NGOs can benefit from M&E. So we've got that greater transparency and accountability that we just mentioned, effective resource allocation, but also this improvement of project performance, promoting learning and data-driven decision-making. And the other thing is that it can really put you to have a systematic and professional management of your projects and your organization. So it can really help you get good processes and systems in place, which can just make everything about managing your projects much easier. Now, before we dive into the digital tools, I thought it'd be good that we all just have in our mind what some of the key elements of an M&E plan are. So if you are creating an M&E plan for your project, there are many aspects to it, but 4 really important parts of that plan would be to have a logic model or results framework that explains how the activities that you plan to do are going to lead to the outcomes, will lead to the objectives, and ultimately deliver the goal of your project. That you actually have an indicator plan or a log frame. And of course, many donors now require that you have that indicator plan along with your assumptions and your risks and disaggregations that you'll track. In that indicator plan, it's really important that you've created smart indicators. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that term now, which is about having indicators that can be measured. So it's making sure that you are creating indicators that you can practically apply and measure and prove that you've achieved your results. And lastly, that you have an implementation plan, because you can have an indicator plan with all your smart indicators and you've got your logic model, but you really need to think about how you're going to apply that in real life through your project. And that's what an implementation plan does. And it would include a data collection plan that can help you work out how you're going to collect the data in order to track your indicators. So if you've got those pieces, your team's convinced, you've told them all why they should have M&E, you're ready to start monitoring your project, right? The rest is easy. But as we all know, that's just the beginning. And I really love this diagram because I feel like it's a great description of what can happen with M&E, because you're collecting so much information, collecting so much data. And historically, we used to all do that paper-based, and still there is quite a bit of paper-based data collection. But of course, once you have all of that paperwork, it's a huge task to sort through it, to file it, to store it, to convert it into Excel files. It's really a massive piece of work. And that's where digital tools can come in. And I think really the advent of digital tools for the NGO sector has just totally transformed how we can do monitoring and evaluation and really improved how we can work. So first of all, they can improve the data quality, because if you're collecting things manually on paper, every time you check it, so maybe you've got a piece of paper and then you add the results together, you write it down in another report, and then it gets put into Excel. Each time you manually input that data, there's a risk of human error. As we all know, we all make small little errors sometimes when we're typing data out. Whereas with digital data, the digital data is transferred directly, and so it is always easy. Clean and correct, and it's much easier to clean and check your data. It can also automate your data processing. So in relation to that, rather than you having to manually aggregate your data along every step, the whole process can be automated. And it can give you real-time insights. If you've got your data already there and it's in a tool, you can instantly see what the latest updates are, what the status is, without having to do any manual calculations yourself. Digital data also really helps us connect easily with remote locations. And this, in the last few years, we've seen even more how important this is, that we can all communicate across the world, even if we can't travel. And then we can see what each other is doing, share our results, share our data, put everything together. And digital tools really bridge that gap to give access to what's happening on the ground. They also, as I mentioned, help to implement best practices. So digital tools can guide you through what processes you should be doing, which really can help you then to implement best practice M&E, even if you're not necessarily an M&E expert. And then lastly, they're great for knowledge management and data retention. By using digital tools, you can ensure that all the information about your project is stored and is available, not just during the life of the project, but after it. And we will talk a little bit more at the end about how important that data retention is. There are a lot of tools out there though, as some of you may be aware. We kind of think of them in three main categories. So you've got your data collection tools. These are usually the ones that you're using out in the field. And there's a lot of data collection tools out there. We've listed some of them here. We also in TolaData have a form builder that can create a web form for data collection. Then the next stage you've got is that management and reporting. So this is when you're bringing the data from those data collection tools together. There's a few products that can help you with that process. Each one of them is a bit different, and we're going to really show you how TolaData does it today. And then lastly, if you want to, there's advanced BI analysis that can be done. And sometimes, especially M&E experts like to really get in and do some advanced analysis of their data. And there are tools like Power BI, Tableau, and Superset that can help you with that. So now you're probably thinking, if there's all of these tools, how am I going to choose which one I should use? And that's one of the things we wanted to help talk to you about today. So we've got some key points that you want to think about when you're picking a digital tool. So firstly, you want to make sure you pick a tool that's appropriate to your context and the requirements. What type of project are you doing? How many organizations are involved? How much data has to be gathered? What's the technical skill of the staff involved? All of these will start to help you decide which is going to be the right tool to use. You're also going to want to think about integration of your tools, and we'll talk a little bit about this a bit further along. But because there's, as we just saw, there's not necessarily one tool that does everything you could possibly want to do. So you want to think how your tools are going to fit together. And especially when you think of data collection tools, maybe you want to use a set of data collection tools, and then you're going to want to bring all that data together. So you're going to want to make sure you have tools that integrate. You're also going to think about online versus offline. Sometimes you might need to do some offline data collection. So you want to make sure you have a tool that works for that. But then lots of your other work maybe only needs to be online. For example, the management work generally only needs to be online. So thinking about when you need online tools and when you need offline tools is really key. You should also think about data protection. So you want to check out where the headquarters of a company is based and where the data of the tool will be stored, and make sure that you're compliant with your local legislation and also the legislation of your donors, especially, for example, if you're governed by EU donors. As we all know, there's GDPR requirements. A really important one is making sure it's friendly for your users, because if the users that have to implement the tools and use the tools every day don't find it easy to use, don't find it a valuable asset to their work, then it's just going to be adding more admin to their lives rather than helping them. So making sure you find a tool that really helps your staff achieve more rather than creating more work for them. And then lastly, of course, there's a cost factor that you need to take into account. And one of the things that we really think is fantastic is that these days you don't have to custom build a tool. It used to be that there weren't tools out there. So every time you had a project, you had to build something specifically for that project. But now there's so many tools that don't require any extensive customization. You can just buy them off the shelf like TolaData and start using them. And it's much more cost efficient and cost effective to work that way. So those are some tips for how you might choose digital tools. But let's get really into it. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Malta, who's going to start us on how we get started with digital data collection.
Thanks a lot, John. Hello to everybody. This is Malta, also CEO at TolaData. Thanks a lot for joining us today. So we are now looking at the data collection part. I'm just going to put up my screen, and yep, we're talking about digital data collection. Let me just remove that. So in order to understand how we can transform our work using digital data collection, maybe it helps to remember how things used to work when there were no digital data collection tools yet, meaning we were all using collecting data manually. So you would walk around with a sheet of paper, taking notes with your hands, and then maybe you would go back to the office or to the hotel and then transform that piece of paper into an Excel sheet. And I think that already describes some of the challenges that used to be there with manual data collection and that are now a thing of the past with digital data collection. So in short, with digital data collection, as Joe said earlier, it's much less error prone. It's more cost effective. You save the time of transforming your non-digital form into a digital form. It reduces the error space. It's more efficient. In short, it helps you to get to achieve a better data quality, and it's much, much faster than the manual data collection used to be. So today for our webinar, we're going to have a look at one digital tool, data collection tool, which we really like. It's called CoBot Toolbox. It's an open source tool. It's free. You can access it via cobotoolbox.org. We put the link into the presentation. And since it has been asked several times in the chat, yes, those slides will be shared with you after the session. So CoBot Toolbox is ODK based, which is a very common standard. It's used by thousands of NGOs all around the world. Many of our customers at TolaData use CoBot Toolbox and are very happy with it. It has several different parts, and we're first going to have a look at the web-based interface. So I'm now logged into my CoBot Toolbox account. As said, it's a free tool. You can just register for free and create your own data collection forms. And the idea of a digital data collection form, it's pretty much taking what you used to have in paper form into the digital world. So when we look at one of those surveys which you can create using a tool such as CoBot Toolbox, the idea is pretty much that you, I'll show you a result, that you transform what you used to have in an analog way, you transform that into a digital survey. You can set up your own fields. You can ask you can ask for participants' name, age, you have number fields, you have numeric fields, you have percentage fields, you can have satisfaction ranges. In short, you can completely customize the way that you want to collect data, and you can specify the order, everything. And once you are done preparing your form, you can deploy it to the CoBot Toolbox server. And that means that this survey form then can be filled out. And the interesting thing about many tools such as CoBot Toolbox is that they do not only come with a web app, but they also do come with a mobile phone app. And this is something that I will show you on my phone. So I have downloaded the CoBot Toolbox application onto my phone. The app on the phone is called CoBot Collect. It's Android based. And in this app, I'll show that to the video. In this app, I see all the forms which I have created on the CoBot Toolbox web service. And I've downloaded all those forms onto my phone. And now what I can do is I can just open the form or one of the forms that I want to fill out. So these are the fields that I want to fill out. Let me quickly do that. It's asking for my name. So I'm just gonna maybe say Matthew is my name. And let's put in some age 42. It's asking me when I participated in the workshop. Let's say that was the 14th of March. And it's asking me to rate my satisfaction with the workshop, and I'll say satisfied, yeah. And then I click on a save form. And then on my phone, I have this option which says send finalized form. And then I just mark the submission and I click on send selected. And then the survey form will be sent from my phone onto the CoBot Toolbox server. And now we can have a look at the data. Let me just update that screen for you. And then you see that line, that's the new submission I just made 1 minute ago on my phone. So to repeat, what happened is I created a survey form, a data collection form. I'm
just going to interrupt for one moment. Malta, you might need to switch your video off. I think your connection's not very strong. Did we just lose Malta, John? Oh, you're back, Malta, but you might need to switch your video off.
Yeah, I'll do that. Joe, can you just tell me when it was cut off, that I make sure that I don't
Yes, you'd just shown everyone, you were just about to explain to them what had happened. You'd shown everyone your result had appeared on the screen.
Perfect. Thanks for confirming. Yeah, so what we are seeing is that the result that I just put in a minute ago earlier on my phone, that I collected on my phone, I then synchronized it with the web server, and now it's showing up as a line item here on the web service. So this already is the idea of digital data collection. You create a form, you deploy it on your phone, you do the data collection, and then you sync it back to the server. There's also other things that you can do once you've collected your data in a digital way. That is something that we'll show to you later in our webinar today. But just to keep in mind, this was the data collection part. There are some tips to consider when doing digital data collection. One is to map the whole data cycle. The idea here is that when doing your data collection, it makes sense to already consider what kind of data you would need in order to fill the indicators with data. So do you have all the data you need? Do you have the disaggregation set up? Are you collecting this data? On the other hand, it's also important not to collect too much data. There's this idea that you should just collect the right amount of data. A surplus data, it's on one hand, it increases your work, but it is also a data protection issue. And that leads us to a really important aspect, namely responsible data collection. We'll get to that on the next slide, where there's a really nice quote that kind of underlines why responsible data collection is important and what it entails. Furthermore, it makes sense to check the quality of the data. So any data validation, data cleaning, it makes sense to do that after the data collection, before the data is moved on to the analysis part, because obviously if you do the analysis based on flawed data, your analysis will be flawed as well. So it makes sense to clean the data after the data collection. Finally, there's different data collection methods. It makes sense to pick the one and apply it to the needs of your projects. There's a really nice article which we've linked to you. It's called the 10 Commandments for Survey Creation. The link can be found in the slides that will be shared with you afterwards. So just coming back to that quote on digital data collection, or what responsible data collection means. It's the duty to ensure people's right to consent, privacy, security, and ownership around the information processes for collection, analysis, storage, presentation, and reuse of data, while respecting the values of transparency and openness. So this is required by GDPR, but we also feel that in general, it just makes a lot of sense to adhere to these principles. And with that, I will hand back to Joe, who keeps us further in the presentation, now talking about, now that we've gathered data, what actually happens next. Thank you, and yeah, I'll join you later.
Great, thank you so much, Malta, and I'm going to share my screen again with you all. So now we've collected all of this data, and you're thinking, I've got all of this amazing data, I've maybe used several different tools. What am I going to do with it? How can I get the most out of it? And this is where we start to think about data cycles. And this is an example of an integrated data cycle that you can use with TolaData. So on the left-hand side, you can see the data collection. You can have collected data with all different tools, COBO, Google Forms, the TolaData forms. You could use survey solutions, other digital collection tools. all of that data that you've collected, you can import it into TolaData, where you can do your management and tracking. You can also, from TolaData, use the reports and dashboards features to do visualizations and reporting. And if you want to, you also have the option of exporting the data from TolaData to use in BI tools such as Tableau and Power BI. So now you start to get a sense of that data cycle and how it can all fit together. The TolaData Toolbox that we have within our app, and I'm going to dive in and really show it to you in detail in a moment, but we've got these 5 pieces of this data cycle puzzle. We've got the collecting your data, managing your data, tracking your progress, seeing how you're doing against your targets and your indicators, visualizing your results and sharing them with other people, and also what we call creating meaningful impact. And that can be about aggregating your results, looking at how your results across many projects come together. So let's dive in and take a look at TolaData in action. So this is TolaData here on the screen. If an organization has an account, when they log in, this is where they first get to as a user, and they can see a list of all of their projects here in TolaData. So we've got a navigation panel down the left-hand side that takes us through the different sections. You can see we're up the top here in project. And then in each section, there's usually a navigation panel here across the top that takes you to different parts of that particular section. So looking at the projects, I can click on the name of a project and open it up. And now I can see more details of this project. So here I can see this humanitarian health project. I can see the countries where it's been implemented. I can see some key information about it. I can also have a look at the project sites where it's been implemented. So here on this map, I can see we've got 3 project sites where this project is happening. I can see lists of the stakeholders that we're working with. I can see documents that are related to this, so we can put in links to documents in a cloud file server. So you can see here, I've got all the project documents. There's also some configurations I can do about the reporting periods and the specific disaggregation types for that project. I'll leave those for the moment because we'll come back to those in a second. The other thing I wanted to show you here is that I can also manage who the team of my project is. And basically here, I get to decide who can see this project, who's involved in this project. And not only do I add them to the team to give them permission to see this project, but I also decide what level of permissions they have. So that, for example, I might have some admins, but perhaps there's some users who are only going to do data entry, or maybe even someone just needs view-only access to this project's data. So this is a really great way for you to manage when you have different projects, maybe working with partners. You can really all be collaborating on the platform together, but you can make sure that people can only see the projects that are relevant to them. Once I've got a project, then the other sections here on the left become available to me. And I'm actually going to dive down to the indicator section because that's really what we want to talk about today. So now I'm in the indicator section. I'm in that humanitarian health project that I opened up before. I can actually change between my projects easily by just choosing a different project there, but let's stay in the humanitarian health project here. So what you can see is that I am looking at the indicator plan for this project, and I actually have some different sections for indicators here. And I'm going to just jump to the results framework and then come back to the indicator plan because of course the two are really related. So as we mentioned, you would always want to have a logic model or results framework as well as an indicator plan for your project. So here we've got a results framework, and you can see I can see from this tree diagram how my outputs or activities are going to lead to my outcomes, which will lead to my objective, which leads to the overall goal of the program. And to give you a bit of a feel of how TolaData works, it's very modular. So we've really designed it so it can adapt to any kind of project. So I could, for example, add something else below that goal, and I don't have to call it objective. Nothing is set in TolaData in terms of what it has to be named. So you see now I've added another box down here, and I can add one below it, and I can keep building out, and I can name them whatever I want. So this works a lot like other tools you might have used, for example, in MS Office when you're building diagrams. Now, this results framework is, of course, related to my indicator plan. And if I come back to my indicator plan on this side, Now you might recognize these headings that are structuring my indicator plan. These are actually the elements of my results framework. And if I come all the way to the bottom, there's that one that I just added, result 2. And I could, if I wanted to, drag and drop that and move it to a different part of my plan. So I can really organize my plan in the best way possible. And then you can see that under those elements, all of my indicators are organized. Now, I just also want to show you how easy it is to add an indicator. So if I go up here to this green button, I can click Add a New Indicator. I might just say the number of demos by Joe. Maybe I want to keep track of how many demonstrations I've done of TolaData. And then I select the type of indicator it is. So is the format numeric percentage, or is it just a qualitative only indicator? So I'm just collecting only qualitative information. In this case, it's numeric. I'm counting things. I put in my overall life of program target. Let's say it's 50. I confirm if I'm trying to increase or decrease. So for example, in this case, I'm trying to increase to reach 50 demos, but perhaps you're tracking maternal mortality rates. And in that case, it would be a decreasing indicator because you're obviously trying to reduce the maternal mortality rates. So I'll leave it as increasing. I can put in a baseline if I have one, but that's not relevant in this case. And I'm just going to click Save. And there you can see that indicator has appeared. And like I did before, I can actually drag and drop that and move it to where I want in my indicator plan. So you can see it's very easy to move my indicator plan around. Now I've got that indicator, but I've only put in really basic information. So I'm actually going to click on the name and open it up. And now I can see even more details of that indicator. So I could, for example, put in an indicator number. That's relevant. I can put in the collection frequency. Maybe I'll say it's quarterly. I can mark it as a KPI if I want. Just click Save and save those results. I can put in notes and just other information about my indicator. But a really key part of the setup that I want to show you is this next tab here, Targets and Disaggregations. So when I go to this tab, you can see here I've got my overall target of 50. That's still there. I can add that baseline information and a date if relevant. I can also put in a unit of measure. In this case, it's demos. But I can, as well as having that overall target, I can also create periodic targets. And as we all know, it's really important that you can tell if your project is on track during the project. And the best way to do that is to have periodic targets or milestones. So let's say that I've got some periodic targets. I'm going to add a new period type. And we've got, you can create custom reporting periods if your donor has really specific reporting periods, or you can just use the standard ones, and the standard ones just follow the standard calendar. So let's say I'm going to put in quarterly standard periodic targets. I'm going to put in for Q1, I might say I'm trying to do 10. For Q2, do another 10. And let's say that the rest is going to be in Q3. And there, if I click Save, and now as well as my overall target, I've also got 3 intervening targets that can help me make sure that my project is on track, and I'll be able to track my results against those targets. Lastly, I can also attach disaggregation types. And as we all know, these are really important. It's so many of our indicators have disaggregations. Of course, one of the most common disaggregations that we track is when we're looking at beneficiaries or trainees or people. We often track gender. We might also track age group. Now I can create custom disaggregation types in TolaData. In this case, I've already created a variety of disaggregation types. And I'm just going to choose one of those, gender. And if I click here, I can actually see what those options will be when I disaggregate my data. So now that's everything. If I click Save and close again, now I can see there's that indicator, and I'm all ready to start tracking my data. I'm ready to start seeing my results. Now this is the exciting bit. Because as you can see, when for this plan that's been in existence for a while, if I'm a project manager or an M&E manager, I can be coming in day to day, can very quickly see all my indicators, and down the right here, I can see my latest results. So I can see what I've achieved in the blue versus my overall target in the black, and I can even see the last time that data was added. And here I can see the status. It's really helpful to get a quick overview of how your project's going. So let's open up that indicator again. And now let's go to the collected data tab. So now I'm ready to report a result for this indicator. Now, the first way that I'm going to show you how to report a result is just what we call manual entry. So I'm going to click Add New Collected Data. You can see there it's on manual entry. Now, manual entry means that I've calculated the result off system. I don't have it as a digital result. Maybe it was an evaluation that was done. It's in a report. Perhaps it was paper-based. Whatever the source is, I can put it in my results. And maybe I'll say I did 12 demos. I need to put in the date that it's related to. So this isn't today's date necessarily. It will be the date that that data was collected. So I might say that that was the month of February. So I'm going to put the last day of February as my date collected. I can also put in an identifier. Maybe I'll say this was webinars for Africa. Just a little tag, and you'll see how this plays out later. It just can be helpful for me to remember what this result was from. I can link documents as evidence. This is really great so that you can make sure that if anybody says, hey, can you give me the proof of those 12 webinars? I can quickly have all of the documents either as URLs or links to a Google Drive or SharePoint or another cloud file service, or even just as a path. So I can even just write in a path. So for example, I might say, evidence of webinars. And I could even just put in a path and say, all stored in files in Berlin office. So even if I don't have it digitally, I can still make sure that that is stored here. So this is a great way that you can even bring in your non-digital evidence and make sure that everything anyone needs to know, if you get a donor audit or anything, you can come back, you know where everything is stored. I can add some notes. I can also add images if I want here. And then lastly, I can add disaggregation information. So you remember I linked that disaggregation type of gender. So maybe I will say that 5 of these webinars were for female, 5 were for male, and 2 were not specified. And click Save. And there you go, I've got my first result. I can see I've now achieved 12 out of 50. I'm 24% on my way to success. I can see that result there. I can see it was me that added it, the date I added it, the evidence I've got. If I want to open it up, I can see further details of it, and everything is there. I'm just going to close that, and I'm going to show you one where we've got lots of evidence. Let's have a look at this one here, the number of people receiving hygiene promotion. So here you can see we've had lots of results reported, and it's reported by different people. This is great. You can have people bringing results into an indicator from different sites, different locations, different partners, and you'll have all that information right there, all of it coming together to give you your overall result. I can even change the formula that I'm using. So at the moment, we're adding all these together to get that 4,468, but I could change it to be taking the average. If my data is cumulative, or for example, if I'm assessing the latest result of, for example, the literacy rates, I can change it to last collection date, but I'll put it back to some. And I also here have the possibility to change the status. So I might say, this is mostly achieved at the moment. So you can see that there's quite a lot of information that I can do and quite a lot of control that I can have in how my results are going to be calculated. And I'm going to pause there and hand back over to Malte, because he's going to show you now how we can bring digital data into this when we think about that data we just collected with CoBo Toolbox.
Thank you, Jo. I'm just going to take over and share my screen. Great. So Jo has shown us how to create an indicator, and she showed us how we can add data manually to an indicator. And what we want to do now in the next step is to show you how data that you've already collected using a digital tool can be linked to an indicator in an M&E tool such as TolaData. So for this, the first step would be that we import the data onto the TolaData server. So this happens in our data table connect section of the app. And here you are going to see that there is a button called Import Table. And this Import Table button has a few options. We can directly import data from the CoBot Toolbox server. That's what we're going to do in a second. We can also import data from Google Sheets or Excel sheets from OneDrive for Business. We can import CSV files and owner files. CSV file is going to be very important for many organizations because basically every digital data collection tool can export as CSV, so the data then can be imported into TolaData. So we're just going to show you the example of CoBot Toolbox. And you may remember that like 20 minutes ago, I was collecting data on my phone and then synchronizing it to the CoBot Toolbox server. This is the server that you saw here earlier. And what we want to do now in the next step is to import that data from the CoBot Toolbox server onto the TolaData server. So I will just click on CoBot Toolbox. What I did before is I provided the authentication token that I have as a CoBot Toolbox user, which allows basically the TolaData application to communicate with the CoBot Toolbox server. So here in the import modal, I can then pick the table which I want to import. So this is the CoBot Toolbox form I want to import. I'll just click on import, and then I can provide a name. I can just provide today's date, so that helps me to distinguish the different files I've imported. And then I click on I'll click on save, and you will see that this line has now appeared here. So if I click on this this link, I can see that the data has now successfully been imported onto the TolaData server. You see all the fields which you could also see on the CoBot Toolbox server, and the data of which I collected using my phone. So now that this data is on the on the TolaData server, what I can do now is use this data to provide values to my indicators. So this happens in the indicator section, the section that Joe already showed to you. So I'll just go back and as a preparation for today's webinar, I created an indicator that kind of corresponds to my data collection form. It's an indicator that counts the percentage of workshop participants who are satisfied with the workshop. So just like Joe previously showed to you, the part where the data, the linking of the data to the indicator takes place is the collected data section. And in this section, Joe showed you how to collect data manually. And what we are now going to do is not use the manual entry, but we are going to use the feature pull from data table. And as the word implies, the idea here is that the value which we want to add to our indicator is not typed in by us manually, but rather that we take it from an existing data table or existing data collection form. So for this to work, first I have to select the data table that I want to work with. And these are all the data tables that I've imported. And you can see here, workshop survey, that's the data table I just imported like 2 minutes ago. And then I can select the data column that I want to work with and the calculation formula. So in our case, our indicator is called the percentage of workshop participants who are satisfied with the workshop. That means that in my raw data table, I want to work with this column here, workshop satisfaction. That's the column I want to work with. So what I would want to do for this specific indicator is to just count the occurrence, the relative occurrence of the value satisfied, because this tells me, okay, this many respondents responded with satisfied. So if you look at the raw data, you can see here we have 3 submissions. 2 out of 3 said they were satisfied. 2 out of 3, that makes it 66.66%. So all I need to do now is just to provide the collection date. As Joe said earlier, I could also be adding some notes here just to provide some additional context. And once I'm done with that, I will just click on save. So the indicator updates. And if at a later stage, a colleague wants to know where this number came from, they would just click here, see the detail and see, okay, this result was added by Malta on March 16th. This is the data where it comes from. This is the calculation formula that was being used. So in short, the system automatically tracks what has happened, thus providing another level of transparency. So this is how the connection of a digital data collection tool to an indicator would work. And as said, you could do this with all sorts of data collection tools. So it doesn't have to be COBO Toolbox, working with the CSV files, Google files, Excel sheets, you name it. For a given indicator, you can combine the manual entry with a pull from data table feature. In other words, you as the M&E officers and project managers, it's in a data collectors, it's in your decision which tool you want to use, how you want to collect your data, and you can adapt that to the needs of your project. So now we've spoken about digital data collection and how it links to TolaData. And then maybe we want to talk about how we can take our results further. And there is a feature that we've developed, which is really interesting for this purpose, and that is the aggregation of indicators. So the idea here is, and that is what we see with many clients, and those of you who work in bigger organizations, which may have quite a range of projects, you may be familiar with that. What we oftentimes are seeing is that projects have so-called standard indicators. And the idea here is that there are several projects being implemented, and they have some specific indicators specific to this one project only, but they also may have a few standard indicators, such as the number of beneficiaries, the number of workshops held. In other words, indicators which are common between different projects. And the interesting thing about standard indicators is that these results help to understand impact at a higher level across different projects, across different countries, for example, and this happens by aggregation of this data. And I'll show you an example of how this could look like. So we do go back to TolaData, and we've created an example for that. So it's a biodiversity project that's happening in various countries. It's happening in 2 projects in Nigeria. It's happening in projects in Ghana and a project in Latin America. So we may start at the lowest level, which is the project level in Nigeria, in Yobe. So here you see a lot of indicators, including an indicator that is called the number of hectares planted with biodiverse seeds. The values of this have been added in the same way that Joe and I showed you a bit earlier, either using manual entry or pulling data from data table. So this is the project level. And as we said, this project is taking place in different places, regions of Nigeria and other parts of the world. So maybe let's now go to the higher level. So we were at the project level. Let's go up to country level. And here we have added a so-called aggregated indicator. It carries the same name, number of hectares planted with biodiverse seeds. But what you're now going to see is that the value of this indicator is auto-calculated. It's an indicator that has been fed with data from the 2 different projects that are taking place in Nigeria, one in Gombe, the other in Yobe. They both have this indicator. They both planted hectares with biodiverse seeds. So the overall number for Nigeria will be calculated by adding up the value from Gombe with the value of Yobe, giving us the total of 6,441 hectares that have been planted. And this idea can be taken even further to other levels. So as we said, this project takes place not only in Nigeria, but also in Ghana. So what we can do now is basically build an analysis for West Africa. And here, the idea is the very same. For this indicator value, we combine the values from Nigeria and Ghana. And this can be even taken up to the highest level, a kind of global level, so the international level, which is where we combined data from West Africa with data from South America. So the idea here is that all these indicators, those standard indicators, are linked to each other, and they auto update each other. So once you update your value in one of the projects in Nigeria, for example, this automatically is going to update the value for the country of Nigeria. It's going to update the value for the West Africa region, and it's going to update the value for the international portfolio that you are tracking. So it really allows you to basically show the impact at different levels. So that is what aggregation is very useful for. Aggregation also has a few elements which are important to keep in mind, and we've also built features around that, namely the topic of weighting factors and adjustments. So we have added different opportunities here for our users. So if we were, for example, to say that for some reason we want to weigh the mathematical weight of the West African region higher than the Southern American one, what we could just do is provide a weighting factor. So let's say we want to weight West Africa region with 60% and the Southern American region with 40%. That's an example of relative weighting, which we can apply right away to the formula in TolaData. We can also work with adjustment factors. Adjustment factors are really crucial when it comes, for example, to topics such as double counting or over-reporting or under-reporting. So maybe we just want to say that experience has shown that South America is over-reported by a few percent. So what we can do is we can just reduce that number by 5% so that the value from South America will be adjusted into the final calculation amount. You see the formula is updated down here, and then I can just click on save, and the formula that's used to calculate this overall value will be updated. And so yeah, so this helps you to carry out analysis of your aggregation and of your portfolio impact. And just some further ideas for data analysis. So we said earlier that it's really important to be very clear about the data you want to collect before your data collection. And the idea is to just to repeat that point, is that if you define the data you want to collect, this helps you to do your analysis. So the two, of course, are always very closely linked to each other. Similarly, analyze for a purpose. It's only analyze the data which will contribute to your overall reporting process. Joe is going to talk about reporting in a second, so it's useful to keep that in mind. And make sure results can be aggregated. So if you do know that data from your project may be taken up to the country level, it makes sense to kind of align with your colleagues in other projects or in other countries, so that the data is collected in a comparable way, so the data can be compared and aggregated easily. And a final point, digital data analysis toolkit. That's the same idea, that you always want to use the tools that make most sense for your respective project. And with that, I'll hand back to Joe, who's now going to talk about reporting and further data analysis.
Thank you so much, Malta. And I'm now going to share my screen again. And so now we're going to think about all this data that you've got, all these calculations that you've done. How can you visualize this? How can you share your results? So there's a few different ways in TolaData that you can do this. So the first that I want to show you is actually still here in the indicator plan section. So if any of you were paying attention, you might have noticed that at the end inside an indicator is this extra tab called a results summary. And if I click on that results summary, what I get is an automatic analysis of the results that have been reported for this indicator. So the first analysis I get is what we call time-based results. Now, time-based results basically mean you take all of the collected data that you have and you say, give me some different analyses of it. So I'm going to say, I want to do a standard reporting period, show me my results quarterly. And the system then takes all the results that have been reported and it says, these are how they show across the different quarters. I've also got an analysis of how much was reported for each quarter and what percentage of the overall total occurred in each quarter. And I can very easily change that at any time. I can also say, show it to me as annual results, and now I've got it by year. The next tab along here gives me my results against my periodic targets. So if I have set those milestones that I'm tracking against, and in this case, we've got two different milestones. We've got both annual milestones and semi-annual milestones. And you can see here, it's giving me my results. There's my target, and this is the actuals that were achieved. So I can actually see how I was doing. And over in this table, as well as the target and actuals, I can see what percentage we achieved. So in 2020, we actually only achieved 17.47% of what we had hoped to achieve, but hopefully we'll make up for that in the rest of the project. And lastly, I can see the summary of my disaggregated results. So you saw us adding disaggregated data when we were collecting data. So I've got my overall result of 4,468. And here I can see all the disaggregation types that have been used on this indicator, and I can see how they break down. So for example, I can see that 4,468, how it breaks down by region. So obviously we were tracking where these people are located in the region of the country where the project's been done. And I can also see that there's some results that have not been disaggregated by region. So then I have all of my data really already ready to hand to help me be tracking that project. So as a project manager, I can dive into any indicator and very quickly see any of these results that have been visualized. But in addition to that, I may also want to create dashboards, and I do that here in the dashboard section. So this is when I want to create a report or something to share my results with people. And I can create a new dashboard. I click Add New Dashboard, and I might call this my Strategia dashboard. So if I click Save, there I have my new dashboard, and you can see it's just a blank screen, and that's because the dashboards are totally configurable. You're the one that designs how they're going to look. And what I'll do is add what we call widgets. So the first kind of widget I can add is text and images. So I might say this is my project dashboard as my title. Here is what I've done. And just so you can see, I can do various formatting in here. I can also add images. Let's put a picture in here and click Save. And now I can scale this. You can see I could have written some narrative and added pictures of my projects, and I've created that first widget. The other thing that I can do if I add a widget is, of course, I can visualize my indicator results. And this is really the interesting thing. So I'm going to show you how to do one of these. So first of all, I choose the type of chart I want to create. And there's a lot of different charts here, but I'm going to choose just a basic actuals versus target. I just want to see, for a set of indicators, what is my latest result versus target. The next thing I do is choose my project. So let's choose that project that we were just looking at, the Humanitarian Health Project. And then I choose which indicators I want to include. So let's just search these indicators. So I might do the number of adolescents who underwent medical checks, number of people who received hand washing training, and maybe the number of people who received hygiene promotion. Now I've got some more options I can do here. I can say don't display target values. Sometimes people just want to see the actuals, not the targets, but I'm going to leave targets in there. I can show the indicator key. I'm going to click that because I'm going to show you how that works. It's quite useful. And I can also filter by date range. So for example, if I was creating a dashboard that was just my Q1 results, I could say filter by date range and only put in the results from the 1st of January to the end of March. And then it would be just show me the results for Q1. But I'm actually going to untick that. I just want to show all of my results. Now I can also add a custom title if I want, but I'm going to leave that blank because I want to show you how that will look without that. So if I click Save, there's that first widget. Now here's my next widget. So I can see my actuals versus my target for the 3 indicators that I selected. So I can see the latest results. Underneath, because I selected indicator key so that I can read the full name of the indicators because it's a bit cramped here, you can see I've then got A, B, C here, so I can see which indicator each of those relate to. I didn't put a title in, so by default, the system has put in the title, which is the type of chart we're looking at, but I can see the project that it relates to and the date range. And in this case, we said, show us all data for the date range. And I can also move this around and organize my dashboard however I want. So you get the idea of how I can build out a dashboard and create one that displays what I want to display. The other thing is that these results are real time. So once I create a dashboard with a widget on it, every time the indicators update at this level, they will automatically update on my dashboard. And that's really, really great so that you can make sure that you always showing your latest results. And I just want to see the tabs here. So I've got another dashboard here that I've prepared in advance that'll show you a few more of the indicators. So here I've got actuals versus target for 4 indicators. That's like the one I just created. But if I go down, I can see some other kinds of charts. In this particular case, I've actually showing the disaggregated results. So I can see for each of those 4 indicators, I can compare their disaggregated results. Further down, I've got here, I'm looking at percentage achieved. So rather than the absolute value for each indicator, what I'm looking at is how close are they to complete. So I can see that I'm about halfway complete on these 3 indicators. This indicator up the top's doing well. It's 71% towards its target. You can see I've got the indicator key underneath that, so I can see. Here I've got a pie chart showing me some disaggregated results for a selected indicator. And I can also see results over time for an indicator, so I can see my progress. And here I can see some other reported results over time. And just to give you some ideas, I just want to show you another dashboard that I created. So you can start to see that you can do different things. You can be creative with your layout. So here I've created a dashboard. I've put certain sections in it. I've put in different information. I've added various charts, and I've put in some narrative to go with them to explain the information that I'm showing. In this case, I've got an overall aggregated indicator like Malta just showed you that's adding together the results of many projects. And then underneath, I put the indicators for each individual project. So I could see the total across all projects, but also compare it to how each individual project is progressing. So you can see, for example, Project C hasn't achieved quite as much as the other 2 projects in the overall. Now, the great thing with the dashboards is that you can share them. So when I first create a dashboard, I'm the only person that can see it. So maybe I want to create a dashboard just for my own tracking of results. But I can also click here and share the results. So I can share it with another user. I could choose, for example, I could share this with Malta. He's another user in my TolaData account. I could even share it with an entire project team. So I could choose a whole team here and they would all get to see this dashboard. Or I can check this box and say, look, share it with every user in my organization. Maybe this is the organizational KPIs and I want to share this dashboard with everyone who works for TolaData. So I could also do that. But the other thing that I can do is I can actually share a dashboard externally. And this is really great if you want to share your results with stakeholders, with beneficiaries, with government officials, with donors. And to do that, I just copy this link and I would email this link to whoever I wanted to share it with. So maybe I might send this link to various stakeholders of my project. They don't have access to TolaData. They wouldn't have a user license. You can see here from this link, it's what we call an unguessable URL, but it takes them to TolaData, but they can't get into any other sections. They can't click on anything or go to the menus. But what they can see is that dashboard that I created. So they can see the latest results and add, just like with the dashboard I was looking at before, these are live results. So every time now the project is updated, this person will be able to see the latest results. And this is a really great way to share your results with your donors, with your stakeholders, and so forth. So that's the dashboards that we've got there to share the results. But there's also other ways that you can get your results out of TolaData. You can also export your results in Excel and CSV format to create reports. So you can export data in many different parts of TolaData. So actually, I'll just go to the data table section first and just quickly show you here. So even here where we have our raw data sets, I can download those data sets as a CSV file if I ever wanted to just export that data, which could be useful. But here in the indicator section, I've got this extra tab called exports. And when I come here, there's a range of different reports that I can run. I can export my indicator list with just the total values. We used to actually call this the log frame report because it would give you exactly the information you needed to fill out your log frame for your next donor report. but I can also pull out really detailed exports. For example, all the data with all the periodic targets and the disaggregation data. I can also export aggregated indicator results, or I can create my own configurable report. And here I can decide, do I want to include qualitative indicators or not? Do I include periodic targets or not? And if I do, how do I want those to look? And also, do I include disaggregated data or not? And then I can create my own specific download of the data. So this is really great. You can always get your data out to put into another report. And you can also import that into BI tools such as Tableau or Power BI if you want to do some further analysis of your data. The last thing I just realized I didn't mention on the dashboards is you can also put these dashboards into, you can also print them as PDFs. So I can also get that as a PDF, and I could just save it as a PDF if I wanted to, maybe send it attached to an email. So there you can see that's how the PDF would look, that I would then be able to send that report if I wanted to send it in an analog format. So these are all of the ways that you can use TolaData for your reporting and your exports. So you're really able to tell the world what you've achieved. There's one last thing that I want to speak to you about, because as well as all of this, the other thing that we like to really pay attention to when we're thinking about digital tools is what I like to call making choices that are going to help you in the future. So we all know that when we do the reports, we're collecting all that data, that actually we're going to need that data down the track. And there's two important times that you're really going to need that data. Now, the first one is when you have your end line or your final report. Now, as we all know, often these reports aren't due until 3 or sometimes even later, 6 months after a project finishes. And sometimes when you come to do that report, many of the project staff have left. You might just have your project manager, who's the last person left, who's got that job to just pull together that final report. And it's really important that they've got all the data on hand. And if they have a question about any of the results, that they can dive back in and check it all so that they make sure that final report is absolutely correct. So digital data really helps you do that. And TolaData, for example, ensures that no matter who you are, you've got access to all the data that everyone collected. You don't have data saved on someone's laptop somewhere else in another office. It's all available to everyone, ready for those reports. The other thing, of course, is data audits. So donor audits have always been a big part of what we do in our work. We know that the donors can come back sometimes many years after a project is finished and do an audit where they want to check how we spent the money, how we can prove what we achieved. And now they've started doing something called data audits. So these are audits that specifically focus on the evidence that you have for the work that you've achieved. So if you were, for example, running a huge program to train teachers, and you reported to your donor that you trained all these teachers, they did these different workshops, they all achieved certain results in their tests, the donor can come back maybe even up to 7 years after the project and say, show me the proof that you actually trained all those teachers, that they did all pass their test, that they were all satisfied with their training. And as we all know, tracing back to find that evidence can be quite a huge task. But if you've got all your data stored in a tool like TolaData, then it's all readily accessible. Even if everyone who worked on the project has left, someone in the organization is going to be able to find all of that evidence and all that data and provide it to the donor. So that's a really great reason to use digital data for your monitoring and evaluation, and make sure that your data is stored safely and is readily available. But the other thing we just want to quickly flag, and we've mentioned this a few times, is making sure that your data storage is compliant, because there's rules about what data you can store and for how long you can store it. So you've got to make sure that you would comply with your local regulations. And in Europe, that's the GDPR regulations. So you also have to make sure that you are complying with your donors' regulations. So you need to check your contract, and your contract will probably give you information about retention requirements. So that's how long they want you to store the data and how many years they reserve the right to come back out and carry an audit. So you want to make sure that you've got your data all in one place, that you can make sure that it's stored, that it's compliant, and that you can also delete or remove that data when you need to, because that's also important. It's not just about storing the data, it's also about, after you no longer should store that data, making sure that you can fully delete it and be compliant in that way. So that's another way that digital data storage really can help you with that process. And a tool like TolaData can make it very easy for you to check what your rules are and making sure that you comply with them. For data retention, we've got some top tips for you. So the first one is to store centrally, because if you store your data in one place, it means it's readily accessible. You've got a lot more control over the security of that data. You can improve the reliability and the speed for accessing it. So storing it centrally could, for example, be like storing it in TolaData so that it's all stored in the cloud on a central server. You also want to make sure that you've got backups of all your data. And again, storing in a tool like TolaData can help you with that because we actually do the backups for you. So we make sure that we're doing backups of all the data every day through our servers and making sure that it's all available. But if you are backing up the data yourself, then you want to make sure you check how often it's been done, who's in charge of it, and that they're making sure those backups are being done successfully every time. The other thing is making sure you have a data retention policy. So this is a policy that sets out why you are holding information, who the users are who will have access to that information, the scope of the retention that'll be done, how long data will be stored for, which laws you're complying with, and also when it will be deleted. It's really important to have these data retention policies in place. And lastly, just that reminder, know the rules. Make sure you've checked the legislation that applies to the data that you've collected and that you've put in place plans to make sure that you're compliant with all of those rules. So that was our presentation about TolaData, and we're really ready to dive into lots of questions. But I saw as well that some people had some questions about TolaData and how it's available. So I thought I would just quickly flag for you here. So firstly, you can actually go and try TolaData yourself for free for 30 days. You can go to our website, start a free trial. We really welcome you to all come and start a free trial, have a play with the system. You can ask us questions. We've got lots of guides that can give you tools. We've got tutorial videos you can have a look at. You can talk with our team on the live web chat. So we'd love you to go and try TolaData and also give us your feedback. A few people have asked if the tool is for free. So we're a social tech company, which means that we're not out to make lots of profit, but we're out to just be sustainable and then deliver a service for the sector. So our whole mission is to provide this software for the NGO sector. So some of our clients aren't NGOs. We also provide the software to, for example, consultancy firms or to government organizations. But our commitment to NGOs is that we give you 50% off our prices to make sure that it's accessible for NGOs. We want to make sure that NGOs can use this tool. That's really our mission. So you can check out all our prices on our pricing page. I shared the link in the chat. But on that note, we're really ready for your questions and discussions. We're really looking forward to hearing from you what some of your questions are, and we can dive into more of a discussion. And I'm hoping maybe, John, you'll moderate for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Joe Bennett and Malte Hoffner for the presentation. I think before we take questions, and I know, so just be on standby, raise your hand. I would like to introduce Victorine to say something about our courses, and then we'll delve into questions and answers. And this should take us another 30 minutes, so be patient, and thank you very much. Victorine, and then Beatrice, my colleague, will moderate the question and answer session. Thank you.
Yeah, hello? Great, am I clear, John?
Yes, but you could be slightly louder.
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Great. Can I please share my screen? So as we get started, my name is Victorine, as John has mentioned. I am the training manager for Strategia Netherlands, and we are one of the organizers for this event. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to take you through a presentation about what we do and what we can offer. One second. Right, so Strategia Netherlands, we are an international organization based in the Netherlands, and our core mission is kind of providing occupational training for the humanitarian or the NGO communities. We have been in operation for about 10 years with experience from over 15 countries. And we deal with mostly training in different aspects and different areas of the humanitarian space. We have a number of different courses on offer, but I think the one most interested for most of the participants today would be, for example, the monitoring and evaluation courses. We have trained a number of different organizations within the NGO community, for example, USAID, the Ministry of Health in Kenya, Mercy Corps, and KenGen. Now, we have a number of different exciting courses, as I've mentioned, within the humanitarian and development field. Grants management, for example, monitoring and evaluation. We have WASH, water sanitation and hygiene, product management, conflict management, disaster management, among others. And our courses are kind of divided into three main categories. We have certificate courses, which go for 6 months at the price of 400 euros. We have diploma courses that go for, certificate go for 3 months for 400 euros. Diploma is 6 months for 800 euros, and postgraduate diplomas are 1 year for 1,200 euros. Now, the benefit of the courses we offer are kind of the e-learning self-paced mode. We understand that most of the students are already working, so they may not necessarily have the time to say that they would do like an 8 to 5, like normal university. So we're very, very flexible, in how this is offered, where you kind of take charge and control of your learning schedule. The courses are done through the e-learning mode, so something similar to this, where you would, for example, have scheduled classes, maybe once or twice a week, maybe, and then you would have all the material in our online learning platform. In terms of the intakes, we have 2 intakes every month. That is on the 1st of the month and the 18th of the month. And this can be in any of the courses that I've mentioned. If you would like to register for this, the email address is there. I think I've mentioned some in the questions in the chat box. That's info@strategianetherlands.eu. Now, we understand the benefit of some of the people who have joined us from all walks of the country or the world, and we have a very special offer for all the participants. So if you're joining this webinar today and you would like to partake in any of the courses, we're having a special 20% off our next intake, which is in April. Now, this webinar, we also organize a couple of webinars, and I feel like I need to mention this to kind of see the value of what we have. Jo has been amazing today. I think we've all learned quite a bit from her, but this is just a snippet of what happens during the courses. So we bring in different experts from different fields within whatever course you're doing. So for example, monitoring and evaluation, you could find other Joes, for example, who would come in and take you through a similar session such as this. So if you are interested in this course, there's a special 20% offer. Just send an email to the email address that I've just shared on the screen, and we will be able to kind of assist with this. I don't know if there are any questions about this at this point.
Right. Thank you very much, Victorine. Please raise your hand if you have a question regarding the presentation. And Beatrice, please step in and moderate this session. I'd like to share roles so you can move forward. Thank you. Beatrice?
Yes, thank you so much, John. Let's start with Moses Oluka. Moses Oluka, unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Hello, Moses. Okay, before Moses, let's have Mohammed Ibrahim.
Yes, thank
Mohammed.
you. I hear you, no problem. Thank you for inviting me to ask more questions about the program. I have only 3 questions that I wanted to say as a summary. First question related to the presentation that you are presenting today. Is it available in other way? For example, can you send it for us as through email in order to read back what is written on that? On the other hand, the video, is it available on your YouTube channel? The third one will be the most important question for me and other participants. And that is to say, when we are talking about the cost of the courses, is it available any other journal that we can pay? For example, here we are in Somalia. As you know, Somalia has no more efficient fund for such important courses like this. And now we are trying to interact with the international community like you. So is there any other consideration beside this 20% of discount for those people who are living third level countries of the world? For example, now Somalia can't afford anyone to pay, for example, 100 euro. Is it available any other journal that we can be offered and this cost? For example, is there any scholarship for these countries since they can't afford to pay such costs like this? Thank you. I think that is my conclusion of the question is for me as a 3 question. Thank you.
Thank you for
maybe
your
I
question.
can take that?
I think Victorine can take up that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohammed, for that question. I've actually seen a lot of those comments coming in. So we currently do not have any scholarships on offer for these specific courses, but we do have a kind of flexible payment plan where you don't necessarily have to pay the entire amount at once. Now, for this to happen, you would need to send your application in. We would have to review this and then see if we're able to kind of grant that an installment plan. We also organize, for those who may not necessarily be able to pay for the entire course, we have a number of free webinars such as this. You can follow our YouTube channel. I think some of the links have been given at the bottom. I'll share this as well, where you can be updated, for example, on all other webinars or free webinars that we have on offer, such as this. But for the courses, this is the certificate, the diplomas, or the postgraduate courses. We don't have any scholarships currently for those, but we have a flexible payment plan where you're still able to complete your courses in a way that is comfortable and affordable to you.
Okay. Let's have a question from Abinafa. Abinafa, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. Are you there? Abinafa?
Yes, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. Please ask a question.
Yes, we thank you for the good presentation that Strategia Netherlands have given us today. Currently, I'm from Ghana, but I'm in Saudi Arabia now. I want to ask very few questions regarding the presentation. With the presentation, I want to ask if with the tools, the data collection tools, do you have probably a specific type of categories of projects that different data collection tools are used for, or all can be used provided you know how to use them very well, or do we have a specific tools for maybe a particular project, and probably you don't need to probably go and use a different one for a different project altogether, where probably you wouldn't get the end result. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So actually, when you think about which data collection tools you want to use, it's usually less about the thematic category of your project. So it's not so much if you work in water and sanitation or education or livelihoods, but rather the kind of data that you're going to collect and the context where you're going to collect it. So for example, if you're going to have a large number of people collecting data and they're going to be going out into the field, they're going to have to collect a lot of data when they're not going to have any connection to the internet. You're going to have lots of data collectors, maybe going from village to village collecting data. Maybe you'd want to use a tool, for example, like CoBot Toolbox. Okay. If you are maybe doing a survey and you're sending it out to companies, perhaps you're doing a livelihoods or an economic development project, and you're sending out a survey and you know they're all going to sit at their computer and just fill out the results and then send it back to you, perhaps you would use Google Forms for that data collection. So it's really about thinking about who's going to collect the data, what tools they have, and how that data is going, like how much data you've got to collect, what kind of data are you going to collect? So for example, do you need GPS data, or do you just need responses to questions? And from that, you decide which tool you're going to use.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm very happy for the answer you've just given. So I want to add this one quickly.
Yeah.
So looking at all the data collection tools that we have in, and then we all have probably different tools that they can be applied. So I want to ask if probably we can have maybe presentations or videos regarding probably all the tools and the relevant specific projects that we can apply those ones, so that maybe in the future we wouldn't have problem selecting a particular data collection plan, so that our work will be easier. If we can get a videos and presentation as we did for this particular data collection tool, that we can always read on our own or go and probably know which one to use in the future. Can we have a video like that probably through our emails? Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll leave that question with the Strategia Netherlands team. I think that they are considering how they might be able to provide you with more courses on digital tools. So perhaps they'll be able to offer something. I did also see a question for someone about whether this could be provided in French. And we are speaking with John and his team that we have French speakers in our team, because TolaData is fully available in French. Actually, it's available in French, Portuguese, Spanish, German, Vietnamese, and Indonesian, as well as English. So we are planning to do this presentation in French in May. But we will also speak with John and the team if there's other ways we can help with, as you say, more presentations about digital tools and digital data collection and the important aspects of that. So,
okay, thank you very much. And lastly,
you're welcome.
I want to ask if maybe we all those who partake in the training today, are we going to be satisfied? Maybe a certificate of participation, something like that, that we can know that probably we have done something within the day. Thank you.
I'll let Beatrice or John answer that.
No, we do not have certificates for today, but the presentation can be accessed via our YouTube channel, Strategia Netherlands.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let's have both Michael ask his question. Both Michael, please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much for the elaborate presentation. I really enjoyed the presentation on digital platforms that you have presented. But in regards to the presentation, I have some quick questions. One is it possible for the institution to organize training in other areas in M&A, apart from digital training that we have just got? Then my second question is in regards to the learning institution. What are your requirements for enrollment? And then are there gradations that are organized, like if somebody completed the course? And then how authentic are your certificates after, maybe, for example, if somebody has enrolled for the course?
Victorine, kindly answer.
Yes. Am I clear?
Yes.
Yeah, so you asked about the graduation. Yes, so maybe I'll just answer your questions one by one. About the graduation, yes, we do hold kind of graduation, online graduation ceremonies for all the students who finish. So this is possible. The enrollment procedure, the process, it will depend on what course you want to do. So for example, if it's the certificate, the requirements are different, the diploma, the requirements are different, and the postgraduate, the requirements are different. So you would maybe need to let us know what course you want so we can advise on the exact requirements for these, for the course. We also do offer, the other question was about other areas in monitoring and evaluation beyond the digital solutions, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we have an entire postgraduate diploma or diploma in monitoring and evaluation that covers a lot more than what Joe has spoken about and the team have talked about. We are able to share this, the entire course brief, for example, to your email address, or you can reach out to us at the info@strategianetherlands.eu, and we'll share all the details about the course overview, the general timing for study, for example, the requirements of enrolling. So all of this information we will be able to share if once you reach out, or you can maybe give your email address and we'll reach out to you. Is that clear?
Yes, my last question is how authentic are your certificates?
Okay, what do you mean by authentic? Sorry.
Like, because you know, there was a course that I took, a diploma in monitoring and evaluation with African Institute for Project Management Studies in Kenya.
Yeah.
And when I was using that, you know, for enrolling for other monitoring courses, like advanced courses, they were saying these certificates are not authentic.
Okay. What I can say, I don't know about the authentic level because I don't know what you mean in that scope, but our training, as I mentioned in my presentation, we focus mostly on occupational training. So what we do is we offer training that is ideally for people who are already in the field. Our training are not academic. And I don't know if you're trying to ask for the accreditation question, because I've seen a couple of that come up. Yes. So we're not accredited per se, but we offer occupational training for people in the field. So for example, I understand that most of the people in this webinar have at some point been in the monitoring and evaluation field. The training we give would be mostly for advancement in career, as opposed to academics where you're required to learn for academic purposes. I don't know if this answers your question, Michael.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have Thelma. Thelma, please ask your question. Thelma R, are you there? Kindly unmute yourself. Okay, meanwhile, let's have Betsy. Betsy.
Hello, hello.
Oh, Thelma is on. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. And thank you for this webinar. Thank you, Joe and Malt. And my question goes to Joe and Malt. So talking about the TolaData toolkit, you spoke about, Malt mentioned that we could get data from Google Sheets and the rest. My question is, can we manually enter data, given that, like, if you already have data on the manual sheets, can you just enter the data without necessarily getting it from some other digital tool? And secondly, if the data you entered is not really correct, how do you set it right? And also, how do we get access to this recording? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. So yeah, really great question. So on the data import, obviously I showed you the manual entry if you just wanted to type in the result directly on the indicator. But I think what you were asking is if you've got the data, say in Excel, just on your desktop, so you didn't want to put it into another tool, if I'm understanding correctly. So you can also import a file as a CSV. So say you've just used Excel on your laptop, you haven't put it in the cloud, it's not in Google Sheets or anywhere else. All you need to do is save that file as a CSV file, which is very easy to do, and then you can import that into TolaData. So you can still import data even the same way where Malte showed you, he went and he was like import data, and the options where there was CoBo Toolbox and Google Sheets. One of the options there is CSV files. So you can just import any file just from your desktop into the system. You also asked about data cleaning, and that's a really great question because I think this is a really important part of the process. So our recommendation is that you always clean the data at the source. So if you collected data in CoBo Toolbox, clean your data in CoBo Toolbox. If you've got your data in an Excel file on your laptop, clean the data in that Excel file first and then import it into TolaData. Now, the reason that we recommend that you do this is because you want to make sure that your data is consistent. And so you want to make sure that you are cleaning it at the source, because otherwise you might end up with two data sets that are different. And then it can be a bit confusing as to why the data from one that you've got from one place is different to the data that you've used to calculate in TolaData. So you should always clean your data at the source, and then you can make sure that everywhere that data gets used, it's going to be the same and it's going to be correct. I think your last question was about the recording, which will be shared after this presentation. Did that answer your question, Thelma?
Okay. Thelma, are you there?
Thelma's on mute again. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's have Betsy.
Okay, yes, that answers. I'm sorry. That answers my question. But again, you mentioned the tool like the CoBot Toolbox, and you said, Joe, I'm talking to you, please.
Yeah.
You said if we have to go into the communities to carry out data, and you also said that one of the tips for the use of digital tools is that the tool has to be user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of collecting data in a certain, say, in a local community where the inhabitants are not really versed or are not really used, or they are unable to use these tools, I'm not really clear if it's the person, the data collector, who is supposed to collect the information and just fill the forms, or the participants or the beneficiaries themselves.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good question. And that's the kind of thing that you would be asking yourself when you designed your implementation plan. So in this question, you'd be thinking about, okay, firstly, where the data is being collected, do people have the right skills to use digital tools, or is giving them a digital form going to be overwhelming, whether it's because the beneficiaries are filling it out themselves, or even maybe some of your data collectors, maybe community health workers aren't so familiar with digital form data collection. And in that case, you might decide that the very first stage is still going to be paper-based. And then you're going to take that paper and you're going to have someone digitalize it. That you could still take that decision if that's appropriate. But in the example that you gave, where maybe it's the beneficiaries, you're thinking, okay, I'm not sure if they would be so great with the digital data collection. But what we usually see is that you have data gatherers that you train. So you'll have a whole team of data gatherers who will be going and they will be asking the questions to the beneficiaries, and they will fill out on like a mobile device. They'll fill out the responses in the digital form, click submit, go to the next person, fill it out, click submit. So usually there would be a data collector who would be doing it on behalf of the beneficiaries. But that's exactly the kind of question you want to ask yourself when you're thinking about that implementation plan and you're choosing the tools that you're going to use. So yeah, really good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you so much, Thelma. Let's have Betsy Chepkirui.
My question is, can it be tried to handle a PowerPoint, the TolaData? Thank you.
Sorry, you want the PowerPoint that we presented today, or you want to know about putting TolaData into a PowerPoint?
Putting the TolaData into PowerPoint.
Yeah. So what a lot of our clients do and what a lot of our users do is they just take little screenshots of the graph that they want and they just paste it as an image into their PowerPoint. So lots of them do use the images, you know, some of the ones I showed you where they had like the charts of the results over time. They actually just they just take a little screenshot of it and put it into a PowerPoint. You can also take a whole dashboard and turn it into a PDF document. Another thing that I've seen some people do is that they have a PowerPoint and they put in remember I showed you could share a dashboard, with a URL, and you could send it to stakeholders. They actually put that URL, that web link, into their PowerPoint. So when someone's reading through it or presenting it, they click on the link and it opens the dashboard for them. And you don't need a login or a user account in order to look at that dashboard. You just need that special secure URL to have a look at it. So there's a few different ways that you can put it into a PowerPoint.
Betsy, I hope that answered your question. Let's have Abdi Fatah. Abdi Fatah, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Joy. I have an internet problem, and thank you so much for this fruitful, maybe in a training and also maybe in a session. Thank you all to the participants and maybe in another team. So my question is, what are the specific advantages that tailored data collection tool is better than to other data collection tools such as ODK and etc? Thank you, the team.
Yep. So I think the thing to keep in mind with TolaData, we do have a data collection form, but in that data collection group, the ODK tools, COBO, all the rest, we integrate with all those tools. So you've got your data collection. TolaData is really about the next stage of it. So taking all that data collection and managing it against your indicators. So that's the difference. Where those tools are really focused on gathering the data in the field, TolaData is focused on how do we take that data and then track our progress against our targets, against our indicators, analyze our disaggregations, get all of the results in for the indicator plan that we're going to need to report to our donors and other stakeholders. So TolaData is much more about the monitoring and the management at the next stage after you've collected the data, and then the reporting and the sharing of dashboards. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I think we've really said. Let's have Chimwemwe. Chimwemwe, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I wanted to ask, when you pay the subscription, like for the organization, to use Tola, let's say for a whole year, if you don't pay subscription for the next years, does Tola continue keeping your data or you lose your data? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we continue to keep your data for as long as you tell us to keep it, according to our data retention policy. There is a limit even for us that we would have to, if you didn't tell us anything after a certain number of years, then we would remove your data if you'd stopped paying us. But say you had a project for 1 year and you had a grant budget that you were paying for TolaData for that 1 year, and part of the project said you have to keep your data for 7 years, right? Which is often a common requirement, but you don't need to keep using TolaData in the 7 years, you just need the data stored. If you just instruct us, please just store the data, so you wouldn't be able to access it, but if you needed it, you could contact us and we could give you access, so you could get that data if you needed it for a donor audit or anything. So we really work, we understand how the sector works and the need to store that data, so we would hold it for you as long as you requested us to.
Okay, let's have Stanley. Stanley Kaliachi.
Thank you so much for the wonderful questions.
Stanley, kindly ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
That's
Hello,
better.
Stanley.
Great, yes. Yeah, so basically my question is on TolaData. I'm more conversant with DHIS2, so I was really looking for something unique with TolaData. I wanted to find from you, because from the look of things, it looks like, as you have just mentioned, to say it's the final stages of the monitoring part of it, where you really want just to track the indicators and probably make decisions later on. Something that is more similar again to what DHIS2 has, the dashboards and the scorecards and all that. what makes it unique, TolaData, if from my perspective? What would basically push me to say, I think I need to have TolaData as one of the applications that I need to use? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, so I'm not as familiar with DHIS2 to give you like really a detailed comparison. And I just want to pause and see if my colleague Moulton knows that particular product better. Yeah,
I would just, so DHIS2 is specifically for the health sector. That's the main purpose, and where it's really a very powerful tool. Whereas TolaData is not specific to one specific field or topic of intervention. That's one of the reasons, the answers I would give. And second, as Joe has said, it's the TolaData comes a bit after the data collection, where DHIS2 also is really strong on the data collection itself. So we integrate rather with tools. Yeah, that's a bit so it's both the sector as well as where in the process does the tool come in.
So let's have 2 more questions. Let's have Prudence. Prudence, please ask your question.
Hello?
Yes, Prudence.
You hear me?
Yes.
Me, I am Prudence from Rwanda. I have a question. For example, if you are working in a project where the donors approved the budget, and even when you started to implement the project, your supervisors told that you cannot make the approval. Which advice you can give your teams? For example, you have in the budget the activities, and when you plan to implement the activities, you are not allowed to go ahead. What you can do?
This is a little out of the scope of this question. So you're asking about if you are having trouble getting approval for spending your budget for the project in order to implement your activities. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually used to be the director of grant management at Save the Children, and I could answer the question with that hat on, but I feel like it's not quite in the scope of the M&E topic. But I know that Strategia Netherlands do various courses on grant management, and I think that that's probably the kind of thing they would address in that course. I think it's also a very big question for us to engage in here. Yeah, sorry.
Please wait a minute. I thought, because for me, I am M&E. When the staff come back to me, they told me it is big challenges. And I am wondering which advice I can give them, because I need the data on time and they cannot get it. That is the issue I have.
Sorry, the issue is about the data or about spending of the budget? Sorry, Prudence, could you repeat again? Is the issue about getting the data or about spending the budget to implement the activities?
No, it is not the spending the budget. For me, I am M&D. I wait the data from the field staff. When I request them, they told me that the budget owner are unable to approve it. And then you have done then you have done the budget together. And after they cannot approve the budget, that can affect my activities on the field to enter the data in.
I see. So you're having trouble getting approval for the budget for the M&E work that you want to do. Yeah. So again, it's a little bit off topic, but I do think it's a really relevant question for M&E, because as we all know, you put together a great budget, and M&E is so important to the project, but often it is the budget line that for some reason the donors try to remove or reduce. And what I would suggest, so in the presentation when we share the slides, if you go back to the beginning, we do talk about why M&E is so important. And all we can really do as all of us collectively is continue to advocate to our managers and to our donors of why monitoring and evaluation is so vital. And it's not just a nice to have in our projects, but actually it's really critical to make sure that our projects are well managed and to make sure that we can prove what we did to our donors and write quality reports for our donors. And also later, as we mentioned, if the donor comes back to do an audit, they're going to want to see all of that data and all of that M&E evidence to prove that you did achieve what you achieved. So you could, excuse me, perhaps use some of those justifications that we put in the presentation to go back to your team and to the other people to explain why it's really important that there is some budget for M&E. So that presentation will be shared with you after this.
Okay, let's have one last person ask a question, then we can wind up. Ishaku S. Abbas. Ishaku?
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe and your team. I'm Ishaku Abbas from Nigeria. We want to appreciate this whole presentation. Is actually timely and on point. My first question is a bit technical. This is a digital tool that is going to be used for data collection, analysis, and a lot of more things. How dynamic is it when it comes to things that are online? I know definitely there might be updates. What happens when this app requires update? What happens to your data? Will it still be safe and secured? That's number one. Number two, the subscription and licensing. How is it like? Is it only a single user license that you offer, or there is provision for multiple users? For instance, I purchase as an organization. Is it possible for me to use it on multiple devices, or how does it work? Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, and great question. So first of all, your question about the updates, that's part of the reason why we provide TolaData as a subscription service. So by taking a subscription with us, we guarantee to always provide you with all the updates that are needed, any fixes, any security enhancements. You also get new features. We're always building new features and new things based on requests from our users. And those automatically get deployed to you as a user. So every time you log in, anything that's new is automatically there for you. We also provide information if there's any new features. We provide all the training and tutorials that are required for that. All of your data is always protected. So every time there's an update in the tool, you just log in through your web browser and you automatically have the new features, but all your data is still there. So there's never a risk that your data can be impacted by those enhancements or those updates. So because you log in via your web browser, you don't have to install anything. You don't have to do those updates yourself. You just log in on Google Chrome browser, and then TolaData is there with the latest version ready for you to use every time you access it. Your other question about the users. So as an organization or a project, you purchase a package of user licenses, and depending how many users you want, it's a different price. You can always increase or decrease the number of users at any time. And then those users all create their own account and they all log in, but you're all looking at the same data and working collaboratively in the same space. So you can actually access your own account. Once you've created your account, you can access it from any device, because you just need to log into, just go to Google Chrome, log in with your username and password, and you can access instantly your account. You don't need to install anything.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone who has asked a question. Thank you, Joe and Malte. That was a wonderful presentation. And now let me welcome Victorine to give a closing remark. Victorine?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Joe and Malte, this was amazing. Just thank you for being able to actually do this. I think with COVID coming in, there's been a gap on digital, generally everything, you know, and the fact that you're able to bring a kind of digital solution to a course that, or program that is needful of it, we really, really appreciate it. We look forward to the first session. I think a lot of the participants would have loved to hear that. So we'll organize that and then we'll let everyone know. For the participants that are joining us, we do a lot of these, you know, and the idea behind it is to kind of fill a gap in areas that are still coming up. Keep in touch with us. We have our email addresses, our info. We can let you know when more and more of these courses are kind of taking place, yeah? I'd like to emphasize the lovely discount that we have for all our courses, not just the monitoring and evaluation one. So if you're interested for the April intake, they see a 20% discount on this, and you can just register and then we'll be able to help you. A big thank you to John as well. I don't know if he wants to say a few last comments before we wrap up.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. We love this community, and in partnership with TolaData, we'll continue to prepare more and meaningful sessions to help in capacity building. That's what we do, and thank you very much. Have a good evening, have a good morning, good afternoon, and let's keep in touch. Thank you, Joe. Let's keep talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Really great to speak with you today, and do get in touch with us on our website or at info@toladata.com. Thanks a lot, John.
Bye.
Bye.
And Martha. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Are you interested in building a career in the development and humanitarian sector? Then, Strategia Netherlands is the best option for you. We offer training solutions to the United Nations, governments, NGOs, and other development organizations worldwide. Make your online application now for Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, and many more. The cost for diploma courses is €800, while postgraduate courses cost €1,200. Visit www.strategianetherlands.nl for more information. Are you interested in building? Did you know that 67% of Africans don't have access to proper housing, 56% have no access to water, and 79% have no access to food? These are the grim statistics of challenges facing Africa today, even as the continent works to develop. This development demands for well-trained personnel. At Capacity Africa Training Institute, we have been leading the charge in changing Africa's fortunes. We are the leading development training company in Africa, offering institutional training solutions and online and distance learning in business, development, and humanitarian courses. Over the last 10 years, we have trained over 10,000 staff from NGOs, governments, and the United Nations in Africa. Our catalog consists of over 200 career-focused online courses to choose from, and registration for diploma and postgraduate courses is now open for the following courses: Postgraduate Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Postgraduate Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, Diploma in Community Development, Postgraduate Diploma in Strategic Planning and Management, Postgraduate Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Project Management, Diploma in Nutrition and Dietetics, Diploma in Gender and Development, Diploma in Leadership and Management, Diploma in Finance Management for NGOs, and many more. We have also partnered with the European International University to offer an executive MBA. Once you register, you will have access to our team of experienced trainers and specialist consultants who will guide you on your course whenever you need them. The cost for diploma courses is $800, while postgraduate courses cost $1,200. The cost of a one-year MBA course is €1,500. Visit www.capacityafrica.com for more information.